Hello. Today I'm going to be reviewing The Batman, directed by Matt Reeves and starring Robert Pattinson as the Batman. Now, I don't want to go too much into specifics early on. I want to give a general overview of my thoughts, and then I'll delve into some more specific things later on. Now, to give a basic, bare bones overview of the plot, essentially we have the Riddler, who starts murdering important figures in Gotham. But these murders aren't random. He's aware of a lot of nefarious things going on, lots of corruption and secret deals between cops and criminals. And he wants to uncover all of these elements. So he starts killing people and revealing their underhanded secrets and all that. One of the key things introduced early on is the Rat, which is essentially a confidential informant that helped take out the Maronis in this drug bust. Throughout the film, the Riddler's murders seem to be trying to uncover who the Rat is. I mean, obviously the Riddler already knows, but he seems to be trying to lead everyone else to find out, specifically the Batman, who the Riddler writes to. At all the murders, he leaves a card for the Batman. The Batman has to try and uncover who this Rat is, to try and figure out where the Riddler is and what he wants. So towards the start, it's mostly focused on the Riddler and what he's doing, and then as we go into the middle, starts to focus a bit more on some of the other stuff that Batman must investigate before Riddler's plans come back in the ending, which I'll talk about a bit later. It's a very dark movie. I don't just mean that in the sense that it's got a lot of morally ambiguous things going on, but I mean it literally. There's a lot of darkness. Like, most of the scenes are set at night, and yeah, there's a lot of darkness in it. There's lots of like shadows where it's literally pitch black, you can't see anything. Even the daytime scenes seem kind of muted, and it's very dark still. And I think this works to the benefit of the movie though, because it's incorporated very well. It's never the case that you struggle to see things that are important. The darkness always has a role. In one of the opening scenes, it uses it very well to show the criminal's fear. Batman talks about his bat signal and explains how it's not just a call that he's needed, but also a warning to the criminals of the city. And it shows them seeing this symbol, seeing this bat signal in the sky, and then like absolutely shitting their pants when they see some darkness, because they don't know if the Batman's there or not, and they're afraid that he could be there. But yeah, overall it's a very dark film, which I think adds a lot to the atmosphere. The atmosphere is very dark and scary, and it really makes it feel like Gotham's not a place you want to go to. I mean, it never is in any of the iterations I've seen it in. Between the corruption going on with the cops, the like officials, and all the criminal elements, a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes that Batman has to try and uncover throughout this film. Riddler's murders act more like a push in that direction. Like, it's like he's got a gun pointed to Batman. He's like saying, go investigate these things. Go find all the corruption, which I quite like. It makes Riddler's plans feel consistent, you know? He wants to uncover all of this stuff. Like, he wants everyone to see it all, I guess. He seems to want Batman to uncover all of the corruption, and he talks about unmasking the city. He talks about that a lot. Another thing that helps the dark and creepy atmosphere is the Riddler himself. His murders are pretty brutal. Like the first guy he kills, he like wraps up in duct tape. There's another guy who has his face eaten off by rats or something. We don't actually get to see what happened to his face, which is probably for the best. It's not just the way he kills people, which is creepy though, but like the way he talks, and he like makes videos as well. He does feel like he is insane, like he's nuts. He rambles on about things, and he can get quite loud when he's angry. Now, it's weird to call him the Riddler because he doesn't feel much like a Riddler. He doesn't feel like the same sort of character that you might find in the Arkham games or in Gotham. He's completely different. He does feel very real and believable, and he's scary and compelling. And he really fits the atmosphere of this film quite well. So I think overall, he's a pretty good villain. He may not feel the most like the Riddler, but he fits very well for the film that he's in, especially with the big emphasis on the detective side of things. So I'd say he's probably one of the best parts of this movie. Now, as I said, it has a bit of an emphasis on the detective side of things in this movie, which is pretty cool. Like, it hasn't really been something that was emphasized in a lot of the old Batman movies. Like, in the Nolan trilogy, for example, there wasn't a whole lot of detecting going on. Like, there's a little bit, bits and pieces, but not too much. But this one really goes all in with it, which I love because it's a refreshing take on a Batman movie. And the villain they picked for it fits really well with that kind of style as well. There are still lots of fight scenes though, lots of action scenes, and they're pretty good. They're alright. Now, I'm not an expert on like camera angles and all that, so forgive me if I get any of this stuff wrong. But it uses like sort of like a wide shot that follows the Batman. It doesn't really have many cuts. It mostly sort of follows him and gives like a big overview of like all the people that are going after him. Or at least there's a couple that are like this. Some of the later ones are a little different, but there's one right at the start where he beats up a bunch of guys who are gonna attack this one guy. There's another fight scene quite early into the movie when he goes to the Iceberg Lounge, which is pretty cool. But the fight scenes do get mixed up a little bit later, so they're not all the same. There's a car chase, which I think is the weakest action scene in the movie. It's very... I talked about how they use darkness very well. This scene doesn't really use it that well. It's very dark, except for all the bright lights from the cars. You can't tell at all who's where and what's going on. It's a little nonsensical as well. So I think it's the weakest action scene. But then you've got like a brief scene, pretty much in complete darkness, except for brief flashes of light when guns are going off. It's a very short scene, but that one was really cool. It was really well put together as well. Overall, the action scenes they're pretty good. They're not the best ones I've ever seen, but they feel unique enough from some of the other action scenes in previous Batman films. It still doesn't beat the warehouse scene from Batman vs Superman. This is a small thing, but I like how lots of the characters call him Vengeance rather than the Batman. Penguin and Selena Kyle are two characters I know who definitely call him Vengeance. I don't know if anyone else did. I'm trying to remember, but I can't really recall anyone else who did. But yeah, I found that kind of funny. I don't know why I found it funny. It's just something I enjoyed, I guess. Overall, I definitely highly recommend this movie. I think it's really, really good. I'm going to talk a bit more about the ending now. So it's going to be very spoiler heavy. So if you want to watch it, but you don't want it to be spoiled, I would recommend stopping here. Maybe come back later to hear my thoughts if you'd like. I really liked this movie. I really did. However, I do feel that I didn't quite like the ending. I think it opened really well, and it was going really, really well, right up until the scene after Riddler has been arrested and he's in Arkham. He and Batman have this like talk while he's in the thing. It's a really good scene. It's just really, really good. Like probably one of the best scenes. This is the one where like, I guess Riddler, he reveals that he knows Batman is Bruce Wayne. He talks about, you know, like why he was doing lots of the stuff. He reveals his like backstory a bit. It's a very good scene. And in the end, he teases that there's something bad going to happen. And he seems surprised that Batman hasn't already figured it out. And then at the end, Batman gets like really angry. He's like banging on the glass, like saying, "What have you done? What have you done?" It's a really good scene for building the tension. And it sets up that there's one last thing that the Riddler has planned. Something big that he thinks is going to kill Batman. So what is that big thing? Well, he's planted 7 bombs in the city that explode the seawalls and cause flooding in Gotham. And then the next part is he has a bunch of his followers basically dress up like him and get a bunch of guns, and they're going to go shoot all the people who try and go to the flood shelter, essentially. But then Batman goes there and he stops them, he like beats them all up and stuff. In an action scene that's sort of average, I'd say. It's not the worst, like the car chase scene was pretty bad, but I don't think it was as good as some of the earlier ones. Anyway, he stops them all, and then the flooding gets really bad, and there's this thing that's going to electrocute everyone, and he cuts the thing so it won't electrocute people, and then he goes and helps people get out of the flooding. I've kind of skimmed through that a little bit, but that's essentially what happens in the end. And it just didn't really do it for me. First of all, Riddler's been kidnapped at this point, so who's the villain who's got to be beaten at this point? No one, really. Batman's just got to do damage control at this point and beat up a bunch of random Riddler followers who, they're not really that scary, they're just kind of henchmen. Like, imagine The Dark Knight, right? Except after the Joker's stopped, instead of Batman having to go rescue Gordon's family from Two-Face, he just has to rescue it from a bunch of Joker henchmen. Sort of has a similar feel to it, I think. And overall, although flooding the city is obviously very bad and very dangerous, like a lot of people would be killed and injured in an event this big, but it doesn't really give you a good sense of how bad the damages are. It doesn't really show you, like the movie doesn't really show us too much about how bad it is. We get like a few glimpses, but it doesn't really go into it too much. It feels more like, I guess, like a background threat that's happening while Batman's fighting these guys. I think the main thing is it doesn't really feel like a continuation of what the Riddler was trying to do. See, all throughout the film, he talks about unmasking the city and making everyone pay for their, you know, crimes and stuff. He kills the mayor, the commissioner, and the DA. He kills all these important figures because of their role in this deal. And there's like lots of corruption going on and stuff. and that's why he kind of takes them out. He wants to unmask the city. That's what he keeps saying. Show everyone the true Gotham. Now, with all this talk of unmasking and showing the truth, I thought he was going to try and reveal Batman's identity. Obviously, that's a very big thing to do, especially for a first Batman movie in this particular universe. It'd be a huge, huge plot twist. But that's what I thought he was building towards. It feels like a bit of a better continuation, I think. He talks about unmasking, and he does talk a bit about Thomas Wayne and some of the crimes that he may or may not have done. And he does reference the sins of the father in this regard. So implying that he wants to make Bruce pay for something. But he doesn't really make Bruce pay for anything. I guess flooding the city is meant to kill Batman. That's his plan, I guess. But it doesn't really single Batman out. It's just kind of a dangerous situation. I don't know. Some people probably died from, but we don't really get a good sense of how many died from it, because the movie doesn't really show us that too much. It felt like it was building up for Riddler to reveal who Batman was. That's what I thought was going to happen. And yeah, it would be a huge, huge plot twist for them to do that. But I think it could have worked. I mean, if they did do it that way, they've got like the sequel pretty much already written for them. All they got to do is, show Batman kind of struggling now that his identity's been revealed. Could really go into a lot of depth with this, I think, like showing how it's ruined his life as Bruce, how it's ruined his life as Batman. To try and combat all this, he would have to hatch a plan. His plan, I think, would be to try and track down this mysterious figure he's heard a few rumors about. Someone who has magic powers. And he would ask this man to cast a spell that could make everyone forget who he is. For whatever reason, the spell would not work properly, and then you could bring in a whole bunch of villains from other multiverses to fight Batman. And Batman would try and help all of these villains with his fist, but then they get the better of him and they would kill Alfred. But before Alfred dies, he would say to Bruce, "With great wealth comes great responsibility." After he feels down for a bit, eventually Bruce would find more Batmans who came through to his universe when those villains did as well. And they would help him to keep going. So you could have Michael Keaton, Ben Affleck, Christian Bale, have all these Batmans come in, and then the four of them would team up to defeat all those other villains who came through. And then at the end, they would all return to their own worlds when that mysterious figure earlier can finally finish his spell properly. And then everyone would forget. Now, I'll admit, I was taking the piss with that a bit there. But I do think, in all seriousness, revealing Batman as Bruce could have been a huge game changer, and it definitely would have made this movie stand out a bit more. Do I think it would work in the long run? I don't know. Maybe it wouldn't. Maybe it just doesn't work to have him revealed. Maybe you could make it so he has a plan to reveal it and Batman has to stop that from happening. Maybe he just barely manages to stop it. Maybe a few people do find out. Maybe like Commissioner Gordon. I don't know. I just feel like it could have worked better than the whole flooding and Riddler followers shooting people thing. It just would have made a better ending. That's what I think. the ending. It was kind of average. Like, it wasn't a bad ending. It was just kind of eh. Overall, I still liked the movie a lot though. But yeah, I think it definitely started off a lot better, and the ending was not quite as good. Now, the movie continues with disappointing me in the end when it has a tease for the Joker. Yay. Like, are you fucking kidding me? Another Joker? Now, I apologise in advance if I say any of these names wrong. We've already had heaps of Jokers. There was Jack Nicholson in the 1989 Batman, and then Heath Ledger in The Dark Knight. Recently, Joaquin Phoenix played the Joker in the movie Joker. He did a really good job. That was a really good film. There was Jared Leto in Suicide Squad. If you want to go really, really old school, Cesar Romero in the TV series with Adam West. And I think they did have a movie in that setting as well. But that's a bit before my time. So, I mean, for crying out loud, in Gotham, they had not one, but two Jokers. Like, seriously. Two. There's been a lot of Jokers. All those ones I named are only the live action ones as well. Like, there's heaps more if you want to include animated shows and movies or, video games and stuff. Those ones are just the live action ones. That's a lot of Jokers. Do we really need another Joker? I don't think so. I think for now, we should focus on different villains. See, what I really liked about the Riddler is they had a new take on him, but like the Riddler wasn't really a villain that was used much in the live action stuff, at least. I think he was in Batman and Robin or Batman Forever. I don't know, one of the older ones. I've not watched that. I don't plan on watching it. I've heard bad things though. Since then, I don't think he's actually been in a live action movie. He was in Gotham. He's pretty good in Gotham. But yeah, he hasn't really been in a live action movie as far as I'm aware. So that was pretty cool. It was refreshing, and it's nice that they use a villain who wasn't quite utilised as well in the movies. It's similar to how in Spider-Man Homecoming they had the Vulture. I think he was a really good choice because he wasn't one of the most well-known villains compared to someone like Venom or Green Goblin. I think by using some of these lesser-known ones, or ones that haven't been used as much, it kind of makes it a bit more unique, Anyway, it is what it is. I think we're meant to get another Batman in this universe, and I think it's going to have the Joker. There's a few other things that I want to talk about briefly that I didn't get a chance to talk to in more depth. First of all, Selena Kyle. I don't know how I feel about the romance between her and Batman. Like, it felt kind of just forced to me. I don't know. I didn't really get into it very much. But overall, I think her character was pretty good. She was mainly driven by a desire to find her friend Annika, who goes missing towards the start of the film. And it's later revealed that she was killed because she found out some information that she shouldn't have. And it's revealed that it was Carmine Falcone who killed her. So after finding this out, Selena tries to get revenge by killing Falcone, who is actually her father, apparently. And then Batman tries to stop her, going on with his classic, no killing thing. He'll pay, but not that way. I mean, it doesn't matter too much because, like, as soon as Falcone gets arrested, he gets killed by the Riddler, who shoots him with a sniper rifle. So he's dead anyway. So it doesn't matter. But yeah, I think overall I liked her character, but I just didn't really buy into her and Batman. Or her and Vengeance, I should say. Penguin was also there. I think he was pretty good as a character. He wasn't in it too much. He was sort of a background player. Apparently he's getting his own TV series. Why? I just want to say why. But yeah, he was alright. He was kind of amusing. Commissioner Gordon was pretty good as well. I like that he's pretty much throughout the entire thing, he's on Batman's side. Like, it's good that Batman's got an ally. Even when a bit later on, most of the cops turn on him. But Gordon's still there because, you know, he's just a good man. And he trusts Batman. As I said, overall, I really like this movie. I think it's probably one of the best Batman movies out there. It doesn't beat The Dark Knight, but it is a very, very good film. I'm somewhat hesitant about a sequel, though. I don't know how I feel about another Joker. But, I mean, Matt Reeves has done a good job with this one. Maybe he can do something unique with the Joker. We'll see. We won't know until the next one comes out. Anyway, I highly recommend it. Check it out if you haven't already. It's really good. It is also quite long. It's like just shy of 3 hours, I believe. I saw it twice in cinemas. I'll probably watch it again when it comes out on DVD as well. That's my thoughts on The Batman. If you've liked this video and you want to see more reviews, please consider subscribing. I'm going to be doing 2 videos a month. First Monday and the third Monday of every month. So my next review will come out April 4th. So if you're interested in seeing more of my reviews, then yeah, please consider subscribing and ring the bell so you can get the notifications. See ya!